Well, the holiday season is here, which means you may be heading out to parties or maybe even hosting your own party, but there are certainly some important things you need to keep in mind if doing so. In this week's Know the Law segment, attorney Tom Sinas joining us to talk about the liability you could face, especially, Tom, when alcohol is involved. That is a big issue.
It is, and boy, I hate to be a downer, right? Because it's a great time of year and everybody's having fun, but the worst thing that you see in my line of work is when someone is hurt, but then when it happens around this time of year.
Absolutely.
So you want to make sure it doesn't happen to you, and you want to make sure that you don't get caught in the crosshairs of this. And alcohol, as everybody knows, is an easy way to get in trouble. So what are some things to remember? Well, we have a law in Michigan that most other states have too, which is called social host liability.
There you go.
What does that mean? Well, it basically means that if you're having a party and you're serving alcohol to either minors, hopefully not at all, or even people of age, you can be liable if those people end up hurting someone else, or even if they hurt themselves. So the rule here is do not serve any alcohol to minors at your house. If you are serving alcohol to people who are of age, it is a good idea to make sure you take some steps to make sure that you are not serving people who are intoxicated. Because that liability, if something does happen, can actually end up rolling back on you. So think about talking to your guests about having a designated driver, maybe using a rideshare service, or maybe if you're having a big party, having your own bartender that you bring in, and that person is job with monitoring the people and what they're consuming.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. When you tell people to bring your own, could it possibly help save you in the long run if they bring their own, or that's really, really hairy situation?
It's a good question, but I still think you ought to err on the side that if you tell people to bring alcohol to your house, then you're the social host.
Gotcha. There you go.
What about in public? Well, we have a law called dram shop.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Dram shop. Well, it's kind of a funny phrase, but what does it apply to? It applies to establishments serving alcohol, bars and restaurants. Those establishments can be held liable if they serve alcohol to someone who is, quote, visibly intoxicated. Now, that's a legal term, and it's difficult to prove sometimes. It's gotten harder to prove over the years because the Michigan Supreme Court has made that standard more difficult. But the bottom line is that if, heaven forbid, you or someone you know or love has been involved in an accident involving alcohol, if that alcohol is traced back to an establishment that should not have been serving that person, then there can be liability on that establishment. One thing to note here, if heaven forbid you do end up in this situation, there are some very strict notice requirements that have to be followed and some other technical rules that apply to dram shop cases. But here's something else to remember. If this does happen, if you or someone you know is involved in an accident involving alcohol, don't forget, if it's a car accident, you are entitled to no-fault benefits. Remember the phrase no fault. It does not matter who's at fault, and we do not exclude people in our no-fault system who are involved in car accidents with alcohol. Some people may think, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but here's the bottom line. Those people need their medical care taken care of, and they've purchased, hopefully, automobile no-fault insurance policies. So if this does happen to you, even if you're the one who has been drinking, don't think that you're going to be excluded from no fault just because you've been drinking, because that isn't the case. You're still entitled to those benefits. Good advice. Certainly a hairy time of year, as you mentioned. You got to be careful. A lot of more things we could ask you. If people want to find out more information about these topics, where do they reach you? They can find us online, www.sinasdramis.com. Give us a call the old-fashioned way, 616-301-3333, or shoot us an email at info@sinasdramis.com. Important information as always. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Derek.